Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Police Advisory and Accountability Committee meeting of May 22nd, 2024. Lieutenant Eberly, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Member Alm,
Present.
Member DeViti,
Present.
Member Ruiz,
Present.
Member Alvarez,
Present.
Chair Kamina, Member Locks, and Member Valdez.
Present.
And because Member Nguyen is not present, Member Locks, you will be a voting member tonight.
And what about Mr. Takalai?
And Mr. Tokalahi is also not here tonight, correct? So Member Valdez, you will also be a voting member tonight. Yes.
Thank you. And would you please address the Lieutenant Eberly, the interpretation and public comment for the meeting?
Yes, thank you, Chair Kamina. Before we begin, we would like to announce that tonight's meeting will include Spanish language simultaneous and consecutive interpretation provided by qualified interpreters on the Spanish channel. If watching on Zoom, you can join the Spanish channel by clicking on the interpretation icon in the Zoom toolbar. It looks like a globe. If you are attending in person and don't have access to the Zoom meeting from your mobile device, please come and see me and I will get you set up with the device so you can listen to the meeting in Spanish. As a reminder, we ask that everyone participating tonight speak slowly to allow our interpreter to effectively express your comments.
Antes de comenzar, nos gustaría anunciar que la reunión de esta noche incluirá interpretación simultánea y consecutiva al español, proporcionada por intérpretes calificados sobre el canal de español. Si nos ven a través de Zoom, se podrán unir al canal de español simplemente haciendo clic sobre el icono de interpretaciones que aparece en la barra de funciones de Zoom. Ahora aparece como un globo terráqueo. Si asiste en persona, pero no tiene acceso a la reunión desde su móvil para Zoom, entonces venga a verme y yo le configuraré un dispositivo para que pueda escuchar la reunión al español. También como recordatorio les pedimos que todos los participantes esta noche hablen lentamente para permitir que nuestro intérprete exprese efectivamente sus comentarios.
This meeting tonight is being recorded and members of the public watch online or listen by phone by calling 669-444-9171 using the meeting ID 898-5245. There will be an opportunity for public comment for those participating in person. Each person will have 2 minutes to provide their comments. We invite each of you to introduce yourselves by name before presenting your comments. We are offering closed captioning for this evening's meeting on Zoom. Select the live transcript button on the Zoom to enable this feature.
Great. Thank you very much, Lieutenant Eberly. The first topic is to review and approve or consider the minutes from the last meeting of April 17th. Do members of the committee have any comments? I'll go down the line. Ms. Ruiz, do you have any comments on the minutes from the last meeting?
No.
Okay. Member Locks?
For expediency, I would like to recommend that we ask the question. If
Could-
someone raises their hand, say anything, we don't have to go each and say every single one. No, I do not. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Could you turn on the microphone, please?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Are there any comment? Is there a second?
I like the process we currently have where we go down and everybody has a chance to reflect. I'm open to other suggestions, but for me, every committee I've been on, it's sort of, this is how it's done. It works for me, but that's just my opinion. I'm open to hear others.
Well, unless there's a second, the motion dies for lack of a second. Okay, so the motion is not carried. Member Alm, do you have?
I have
any
no comments on meetings.
Okay, Member Dariush?
No
DeViti,
comment.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. No comment.
Okay, Member Alvarez?
No.
And Member Valdez?
No.
Nor do I. So is there now a motion to approve
make
the
a mo-
minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Oh, excuse me, my bad. Is there any public comment about the minutes? My apologies. I seeing none. There's no public comment, so we'll close that. I should have done that before, so I will correct that next time. So all those in favor of the minutes being approved as they are?
I can conduct a roll call vote
We'll
if
do
you'd
that.
like.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
Or we can
See what happens when you go on vacation.
Member Alm,
Approve.
Member Davidi, Member Ruiz, Member Alvarez,
Approved.
Chair Kamina, Member Locks,
Approve.
and Member Valdez.
Approved.
Are approved. Now we're having a slight change in order. In the past meetings, we've had public comment on any topic at the end of the meeting, and it's been requested that we put it to this earlier time. So there still will be ability to comment after each topic, but now is the time for public expression. If anybody has something to comment on that's not on the agenda. So would anyone like to come forward, please? And actually, if you want to kind of all, if whoever's going to speak, kind of line up, so we'll save some time. Thank you. No.
Okay,
I have-
thank you. Hello, everyone. Hope you and your families are well. My comments are about military equipment. I want to ground us in the love and the commitment for our community that brought you to serve here and remind you that every organization has room for improvements. Please look at police culture. Think about how it allowed for and even supported brutal treatment. Military equipment has been linked to a culture of violence and dehumanization. You heard in the April meeting that AB 481 was passed to allow community input into use of military equipment, but you didn't hear the why. The why was that legislators created it so that community could have input and oversight because military equipment is more frequently deployed in low-income Black and Brown communities, meaning that the risks and impacts of police militarization are experienced more in marginalized communities. When members of this committee suggest that instead of sharing equipment, SRPD should have their own, I wonder if you have read the research that shows that police departments with military-grade equipment are likely to use more violence, that their SWAT deployments disproportionately impact Black and Latino households, that drones can easily be misused for surveillance and exploit and discriminate against all of us, putting our privacy at risk. Please request that SRPD include RIPA data when they give you a report of the use of military equipment. This will allow you to look into what cultural changes might be necessary. And please pay close attention to the reasons for using military equipment and ask yourselves, is the police department highlighting the protection of our entire community, or are they highlighting the protection of members of their department? Because both must be considered. The police department is well-versed in advocating for their needs and making a case. Your role is to uplift the needs of the community and make sure that they are also respected. Thank you.
Hello, next, please.
Jason from Gerstle Park. Good evening, committee members. There's a couple of incidents that happened within the last week or two with the police that probably should come to your attention. One was East Bay Tire Company was blasting music. They got a media tower blasting music at the homeless encampment right next to their business between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. The police were called and there was no action taken. So the plaintiff who called, well, actually he's now a plaintiff, actually sued the East Bay Tire Company to, stop the music, and he got a temporary injunction. But if the police would have actually enforced the on the books ordinance for San Rafael and represented the unhoused community, this could have saved a lot of trouble. And so I just wanted to put that on your radar. Also, an event that happened probably close to 2 weeks ago, a woman over by 7-Eleven on B Street was having a mental health issue. Reports were that the SAFE team was there, so they might have came first, but the police were there. There was a big crowd telling the police to be careful. She's having an episode of some sort. And there was 3 police officers that were holding her, and a 4th came in and body slammed her face first into the ground, knocking her out. I've looked at the police report, arrest report, and there were none of the charges stemmed from the police being called. They were all charges from after the police came. And so I don't know how much you can investigate, but maybe on your own, look at social media, stuff like that. You should be well aware of what's going on in San Rafael. Thank you.
Are you timing this? Oh, okay, then you have to. Thank you. So are there any other comments? Oh, you're working on the microphone? Okay, seeing no other persons interested in public comment, the general public comment time, or the time for public expression, is now closed. So the next agenda item is feedback from the last meeting with regard to the San Rafael Police Department's law enforcement training. Is that, or did I skip a page? No, that's okay. So the title is Provide Feedback on the San Rafael Police Department's Law Enforcement Training Recommendation. Do we have a staff report?
Yes. Thank you, Chair Kamina.
Sure.
So last month, April 17th, Sergeant Rob Cleland presented law enforcement training, how that relates to the peace officer standards and training and the additional training that the San Rafael Police Department does. In your packet, we inserted item 3A from last month's training. And just a reminder, we went over the internal training, the training that is required by post, and all the additional training that we had. So tonight, I'm available to answer any of the questions that you may still have from Sergeant Cleland's presentation, and for you guys to make any recommendations to that
Okay.
topic.
Thank you. Do any members of the committee have any questions for? No? Member Locks?
Thank you. I was looking over the list of trainings, and I noticed that there are several conflict management. There are several stress management. Were these just the same class, but maybe offered at a different time to a different group of people? Or is it several conflict, different types of conflict management classes, different types of stress communication skills I see here, crisis intervention, crisis negotiation for team leaders. So crisis intervention, several, and that was basically my question, several, maybe 5 different classes. And I wasn't sure what that exactly meant.
Yeah, great question. There is a difference between crisis negotiation and crisis intervention and stress management and conflict resolution training. Those are all different classes. The crisis negotiators training, that is for in progress. For example, if there's like a barricaded subject, we would bring the SWAT team and the crisis negotiators in. Conflict management, that is a pretty broad class that covers conflict management external and conflict management internal. Stress management is a wellness class. But to answer your question, I think your main question, if you saw duplicates of the same title, yes, those would be the same classes. And so what I had done is try to remove a lot of those duplicates and capture really a 12-month period of training that we go through.
Yes, that was my question. Thank you.
Anything else? No, okay. Member Al?
All my questions were previously answered.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I asked if you were finished.
No, well, I had to look at my note. I have another question, but,
Well, why don't you proceed?
okay. Well, this has to do with, when we're looking at, actually, I think it comes under item C. My question will be under item C, so I'll wait. Okay.
Member Davidi?
Yes, if I remember correctly, I wanted to get some more information on cultural sensitivity training in the Latino demographic and also with anti-Semitism in regards to, what's the duration, just more information. What are those, protocols that you guys cover for those two demographics?
Posts, I can speak to posts, and then I don't, we also do a city specific diversity, equity, inclusion training that does cover specific cultures in San Rafael. Post does cover all different types of ethnic hate crimes. And we have to take that once, I think it's once a year, along with bias-based training. So there are multiple classes that we take that that address the different hate groups and hate crimes that are out there. Does that answer your question? If I'm missing the mark.
More maybe, and then this is more the hate crime thing, more about the anti-Semitic part, right? Is that where you're going with it?
Yeah, and it doesn't just cover, no, we don't have a class specific to anti-Semitism.
Okay.
So it's usually a class that covers many different hate groups that address different
Yeah.
protected class.
The only reason why I
positions.
brought it up because it's 300% on the rise, and a lot of the local businesses here that are run by those demographics are experiencing some form of hate.
Mhm.
I just wasn't sure if the police have any special training, how to respond.
We do actually respond. I know the sheriff's department has the Jewish Community Center on San Pedro. There's also one on downtown, and we do almost yearly active attacker classes. It's a good opportunity to not only tell them how we would respond or that business how we would respond, but it also gives us an opportunity to, establish stronger relationships with that group and give them hints. But besides that, we don't have a specific anti-Semitic class.
Okay, thank you.
Member Alvarez, do you have any questions? Or were you not here last time? So you have no question about the presentation? Oh, my apologies. So do you have any comments? Or questions?
No,
I'm
but
sorry.
no.
Oh, please. No. Please feel free. Go ahead.
I was gonna comment that I did look over the paperwork from last month, so I do have an understanding about most of what you guys are talking about.
Great, thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I wasn't here either, but I watched online and I think my questions were answered at the last
Oh,
meeting. Yeah,
okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Same for me. Are there any comments from the public about this topic, which was the police training? Please come forward. Oh, they're tiny. I didn't realize that. It was a little teeny. Thank you. I think it's off again.
Okay. Yes. So you're being asked to approve a training plan that isn't significantly different from the plans that the police department had before the PAC. The PAC was formed for advising and increasing accountability due to broken trust and a clear indication of deep-rooted police culture that, if changed, allows for both increased community safety and officer safety. That's good for everyone. POST sets the standards, but SRPD can do more. SRPD is holding an 8-hour training that they did on tools for tolerance for law enforcement up as a DEIB training, and stated that it touched on all ethnicities to try to be inclusive. I think those of us that do equity work can see the problem right there in the description. Not all ethnicities need to be uplifted. White peoples, we are a white dominant culture. We don't need to be uplifted when we're trying to be more racially humble and conscious. So why did they pick the 1-day training instead of the 4-day training? And more importantly, how did they measure the impact of the training? We were merely given a laundry list as check boxes without any explanation of how learning, effectiveness, and impact are measured. Is anyone doing anything differently after the training? And if so, what? Please ask for key performance indicators for training. They aren't included at all in the plan. Police culture is deeply rooted in training. Brandon Nail and Oscar Ocon were field training officers, and Daisy Mazariegos was recently out of the field training program when they brutally beat and mishandled a resident. Yet we still have not heard what in the training program addresses culture change. Why? Why haven't we heard anything? We've asked at all the meetings. It's normal to think it's because SRPD hasn't done anything. If that's not right, Lieutenant Everly, please tell us. There is no science to support the trickle-down training model that was described last meeting, that the leadership team meets once a month and that training is incorporated into everyone's leadership style and passed on to staff. The leadership trains their subordinates. That's what we heard. PAC members, it is your charge to request meaningful change in our community. I know you can do it. You're a bunch of smart community residents who are at all these meetings because you love our community. Please don't let the old status quo plans pass because they will have the same old status quo results for our community. Thank you.
Hi, Jason Gersel Park. I just want to reiterate what Heidi said. I couldn't have said any more than what she said. And you all have a role to play in this. And we want to enact change that is going to benefit people and marginalized communities. And so please try not to rubber stamp everything that is presented to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other comment? No. Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment on this item. Lieutenant Eberly, do you have any response to any of the questions from the community?
If you want me to answer a particular question, there was a lot there.
I know. Just if you have any comments.
Nothing of the, I
Okay.
mean, it's not a plan that you guys are approving. It's just a,
I understand. Okay. So for the committee, are there any comments and recommendations regarding giving feedback on the training presentation?
No,
No?
ningún comentario.
Member Locke?
No.
Member Alm?
I gave my comment with the
Did you?
previous meeting.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Member Alvarez?
No
Oh.
comment.
Okay, thank you. I have none.
Chair Kamina, can I take a second to toggle the interpreter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, he's the interpreter. It's be pronounced Majid. 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 Let's see it correctly.
Member Ruiz, do you hear the interpreter?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I hear you.
Pablo, can you talk on the Spanish channel? You know what? Mhm.
Ya está. It's ready.
Yeah.
Sí, sí te oímos.
All good?
You hear?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. And Chair Camino, we're ready to go.
Okay, thank you so much. You all work very hard to make this work. So the next topic is mental health and alternative response presented by Mr. Aziz Majid who is the Safe Team Director. And the recommendation is that we receive this report. Mr. Pardon? Yes, please.
Thank you. Looks like it's not going full screen on all the other, is that okay to leave it like that? The presentation? Okay, cool. All right, thanks everyone. Good evening. Yeah, my name is Aziz Majid. I'm the program director for the SAFE Team. SAFE Team stands for Specialized Assistance for Everyone. I've been with the program since the inception of the program. We actually started up in Petaluma 3 years ago. I started on the van as an EMT and a crisis intervention specialist before promoting up to manager and director. We've been here in San Rafael for a little bit over a year now, so I'm here to talk about a little bit about the team specifically and what we do and how things have been going here in San Rafael for us. So background on what the SAFE Team is. What we are essentially is we're a mobile crisis unit, an alternative to police response team. There's a lot of different types of mobile crisis units across the country, within our county, within the Bay Area. We run off of the Cahoots model, which is a team that's been ongoing serving the public of Eugene, Oregon since the late 80s. So we have a similar team format as the Cahoots up in Eugene, Oregon. We look at ourselves as the third branch of public safety, right? Traditionally, you have just police, you just have fire, which is amazing. We obviously need those two entities, but there's a lot of calls that come in through the 911 system that don't necessarily fit in the police box or the fire box, right? And these are usually calls that are related to mental health, substance use, homelessness, or, minor, non-violent, non-criminal calls that may come in, like maybe a welfare check or a verbal dispute, maybe something along those lines. So on January 17th of 2023, San Rafael entered into a 3-year professional service agreement with PPSC, Petaluma People Services Center, which is the nonprofit that houses our program. A little bit of background before San Rafael. We launched in 2021 following the tragic George Floyd incident. The youth of Petaluma lobbied the city council for an alternative response team. And the city council of Petaluma in early 2021 approved it, set a budget aside, hired a consultant to find where can we house this team and also what type of team are we going to start. And PPSC took up the RFP and started the program. So we're a multi-programmed nonprofit centered in Southern Sonoma County. We are here to serve community members in crisis through trauma-informed de-escalation, conflict resolution, welfare checks, low-level medical aid, and substance abuse counseling. The SAFE Team is connected to the public safety answering point and dispatched through San Rafael PD's dispatch center. Our number is 415-458-SAFE, which is 7233. And that's one of the things that makes our team so dynamic and gives such an impact to the community is that we're tied into public safety. So we work really closely to the city. We work closely to police and fire. And since we're on dispatch, it raises the amount of calls we can take and also our response time too. So all the calls that come in through 911, if they're in our scope of work, Santa Fe's dispatch is amazing. They send us out immediately. If we hear a call going on, maybe we're on a more low-level call, or maybe we're not on a call, maybe the team's just patrolling around downtown, they hear a call come in, they can attach themselves. So there's a lot of communication, a lot of fluidity with being on Santa Fe LPD's dispatch. So goals. The goal of the SAFE team is to address crisis response, prevention and intervention for most vulnerable community members experiencing crises related to mental health issues, substance abuse issues, and homelessness. The team is comprised of specifically trained civilian crisis counselors, also known as crisis intervention specialists, and emergency medical technicians. So currently, since we first started, we've been operating 7 days a week, 365 days a year, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Now, in all of our other jurisdictions in Sonoma County, we've been 24/7 the past couple of years. We are eyeing either expanding service hours to 18 or possibly 24 hours sometime maybe in the next year, depending on funding. Just some pictures. That's our outfitted Ford Transit van there at the bottom left. Very versatile van. We're able to stock a lot of different items in there. We have a partition. We have it all paneled out in wood, so it's kind of a warm feeling. It's not super sterile. We have seats in the back, about 3 or 4 seats. We have the ability to transport any client to any staff service in the county. We keep things like food, water, harm reduction materials, as well as clothing and hygiene kits, some other miscellaneous things on the van too. These are some stats, and this is drawn from March 27th, 2023. So that was our first day rolled out all the way to January 31st of 2024. As you can see, in those 10 months, we've handled 2,693 calls, which goes out to roughly 5% of all calls going into Santa Fe LPD. We have a lot of different types of call types. I'm not going to go too in the weeds on each call type unless there's some questions I'm happy to answer. And then at the bottom there, we have our diverts. So we also pride ourselves in diverting clients away from facilities and institutions that may have provided trauma to a client in the past, or that is an impacted destination that might not serve the needs of that individual. So for example, a lot of the data shows that folks that are placed on 5150 holds are 3 to 4 times more likely to be put on a 5150 hold 2 to 3 times moreover in the future. Because of that, what we try to do is our approach to clients is based off autonomy and rapport. So we're specifically staffed with crisis worker and EMT. We specifically do not staff with a licensed clinician. Licensed clinicians are able to write 5150 holds. We're not. It's designed that way on purpose. We want to give our clients autonomy. And a lot of the work we do is off of rapport, right? So we respect their autonomy. A lot of what we do is de-escalation, validation, empathy, active listening. And there's also the component of referring that client to the services they need to be referred to. We also have a bilingual full-time navigator who essentially works as our case manager. Whereas if we have a client that is interested either down the line or in the near term in any service in the Bay Area, we can directly connect that client with that navigator. Also, every shift here in Santa Fe, there is a team member that speaks Spanish as well. At the bottom there, you see 105 ER room diversions, 98 jail diversions, and 132 ambulance diversions. Now, these are key, and down the line, we'll present these numbers to our local hospitals, Kaiser, Marin Health, Sutter, like we've done in Sonoma County. Each ER divert roughly averages to about $5,000 to $6,000 in savings baseline. And there's a lot of folks that end up in hospitals or take an ambulance ride that maybe necessarily didn't need to. This can be someone that's intoxicated, that could have gone to detox or somewhere, sobering bed. It can be someone that is having a mental health crisis that maybe could have just safety planned with us and maybe been referred to a clinic or therapist. Or it can also be, instead of a hold, similar to along the lines of what I just talked about, we can safety plan, or we can directly, voluntarily take a client directly to the CSU, Unit B in Green Bay, for a mental health screening. So in total, Santa Fe PD has handled over 44,000 calls for service annually. I believe this was last year's stats. And we're projected to handle over 3,200 plus, so 7%. So on the slide before, it showed all the way up to January. We're in May now. We've already surpassed this 3,200. So We run 4 different teams at the same time. Like I said, we have several teams in Sonoma County. This is by far our busiest team. Very busy team. They're running average of 10 to 13 calls a day. So they're really busy. Another cool stat here is that our team is actually responding faster to priority 2 and 3 calls for service than co-response calls or police only calls, which is pretty cool. So I get asked this a lot. What does a successful outcome look like for the safe team? Honestly, it can look like a lot of different types of ways. It sounds corny, but it can even be something as simple as it's a hot day, it's summertime, someone's sleeping out on the street, we give them some water and we can transport them to a cooling center. And that makes their day, that makes their week. They appreciate that. It can be something as dramatic as we had a call where one of our teams had to sit on top of a parking garage with a suicidal teen for 3 hours because he was going to jump off if any cop approached him. And he set his mind to that. The team was able to talk him down and get him referred to services, which is pretty cool. So it can be a lot. Successful calls can look at like all different shapes of sizes. It can be helping someone become medication compliant, helping someone secure housing, long-term or short-term shelters, connect folks with psychiatric services, de-escalation. We also helped SRPD lower priority 1 response times 7 minutes to 5 to 7 minutes in 2023. Because another impact of the program is that if we're out in the community and we're handling those 12 or 15 calls, right, over 3,200 calls in a year, if our team wasn't around, those would all be handled by police, right? And police are trained in certain aspects, right, of law enforcement, obviously. Our team is trained specifically in mental health, homelessness, cultural sensitivity, de-escalation, suicidal assessment, services. And being housed in a nonprofit at PPSC has been very helpful too, because we can directly connect folks to our counseling program, senior services, a lot of different things. So having our team out in the field responding to these calls that are in our wheelhouse allows PD to respond to the calls that they're trained for, right? So they're not 2, 3, 4 officers aren't going to be tied up on a suicidal call at Centerville High for a couple hours because our team will handle that call now. So like I said, the next step expansion, and this is also the same presentation we gave to City Council last month, would be evaluating for either an 18-hour overlap style or just a 24-hour service. And the city and PPSC, we're looking for state and federal grants and exploring further community partnerships. Like I said, Marin Health, Kaiser, Sutter, and showing the data evidence base of those ED diverts and how much we're saving them. Right. That's it. Any questions?
Are there any questions from the committee?
I do.
Oh, okay.
I don't have a question.
Okay.
No.
We're-
Yeah, you want to?
She's,
Like that.
Yeah, so like
You
that's
raise
what.
your hand first.
No, go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you for the presentation, and I did hear it at City Council meeting. It was excellent, and I
you, ma'am.
asked you some questions.
Thank you.
And my question is, you stated that there were EMTs, but no paramedics, so you do not give any medications if it was required?
No, ma'am, we don't. No.
So no medications?
No medication.
Okay, so you don't take orders for administering medications?
No, ma'am. No, we have no medical director.
All right.
Yeah.
The second question is, this gentleman from the community, Mr. Jason, had mentioned a situation that he observed.
Mhm.
My question is, if you're having the counselors there for doing the intervention, are you able to tell the police to stand down? Because you are able to handle it. By you, I mean the team
Yeah.
is more appropriate for the type of intervention. Are you able to tell the police to stand down?
Sure, that's a good question. So I think it depends on the type of call. So the screening starts with the first call that comes in. So as soon as that 911 call goes into dispatch, and their dispatch is amazing. I work with 4 other dispatches and there's just top of the line. So if any call is being described as essentially, if there's any mental health, behavioral health, substance use, homelessness call, and there's definitely no weapons involved or violence involved, they're going to send our team alone. There shouldn't be police going with us. I'm not sure specifically to the context of that call. I will look into it. I haven't heard anything about it. But there are instances where The officers and my team, they have a conversation on call, right? So maybe it's a conversation of, does this person need to be put on a hold or not, right? That's like a typical conversation. Or does police even need to be there? Half of the time, a lot of officers, maybe it is a co-response. Once they see we're handling it, they stand down on their own. We haven't had any clashing of the heads on scene where we had to tell them like, leave alone. We got, leave us alone. We got this. They're really good about once they see we're handling things, they back off. If my team feels like maybe their presence on scene is not helping, the team is empowered to, respectfully have a conversation with officers and, kind of nudge them and say, hey, we got this handled. And they've been receptive to that.
They've been receptive.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then the last thing, it's specializes the safe, specialized assistance
For everyone.
for everyone.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, I just asked what SAFE stand for. Oh, yeah. Specialized assistance for everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Member Locks, if I could just chime in on your second question. The SAFE team is so very welcomed in our department. They attend all of our briefings. I've seen the SAFE members eating lunch with some of our police officers. So the particular situation that you're talking about, the officers would stand down if the SAFE team would tell them to. Absolutely. The relationship has been formed and been forming over the last year, that the officers know that a lot of times when SAFE is there, they're the right person to deal with the call. Now, sometimes they're not. If somebody is belligerent, has weapons, using violence, then we would have to step in.
So you also know techniques. You taught that also.
No, we don't. We don't.
Don't do
We
takedown?
never go hands-on.
You don't do hands.
Under,
Okay,
yeah,
that
no
was a good
circumstances we
question.
go
Okay.
to. Yeah.
I'm clinically focused, so that's why I'm asking.
Okay, no,
those
good question. Yeah.
Questions. Okay.
Member On?
I'm a little confused. You said there's 4 teams on service patrol. Is that just for the San Rafael community or all communities you serve?
All communities you serve.
Got it.
Yeah.
But how often do you run into a call in San Rafael and you are not able to provide assistance? If
And provide assistance in what way? Like we get to scene and we
you
can't
were
do
encumbered
anything?
with other call.
Oh, that's a good question. So like I said, this is our busiest jurisdiction. And we actually are pulling the stats on that specific question so we can figure out, do we want to go 18 hours or 24? A lot of the calls, sometimes we have clients that come and ask for us specifically. Those calls get pinned for us. And that means because SRPD, they have a policy where if a call is pending for 30 or more minutes, they're going to end up sending an officer. So if we're tied up in Tierra Linda at the high school for 2 hours and there's maybe like a welfare check or move along, they will send an officer. However, for the calls that come in specifically asking for SAFE team, those stand pending for us for when we clear the call.
So the volumes that they're expanding,
Yes.
is it still manageable? Like,
It
do
is
you feel
manageable.
like it's out of getting, do you need more help, more support,
I think it's
funding?
yeah, I think it's yeah. So, and that's one of the things we're talking about. We're thinking about either going 24/7 or adding an additional team during peak hours. The team loves staying busy. Like I said, 10 to 15 calls ish on average. But it's a healthy amount of calls. It's not at the point where community members are not being served because we're so busy. It's just there's so many calls days in, day out that the team is staying busy all day. If that answers your question.
It does.
Okay.
One last question. I do have a clinical eye of too. And
Mhm.
for me, I actually want to kind of reverse it. How much downtime does your team have? Like,
It's a good question.
yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, for specifically here in San Rafael, out of all of our teams, they have the least amount of downtime. Let's see, they're doing a 12-hour shift. I'd say on average, well, the thing is during their downtime, they're also being productive. So during downtime, they're walking through Mahone Path, talking to folks, building rapport, handing out hygiene kits, water, food, referring to services. Maybe they're just patrolling around town. Maybe they're walking through downtown, handing out business cards. Or yeah, obviously they have lunch breaks and they do have downtime. So I'd say on average, out of those 12 hours, I'd say 1.5, 2 hours of downtime, which includes, lunch, bathroom breaks, of course, and time to themselves. So self-care is important in this work, as well as being proactive when they're not on a call. Yeah.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for your presentation. My hat's off to you. I'm part of the East San Rafael community and there's a group of warehouses there. I think a few of my neighbors have called you guys and they've been really happy with your response. And I believe Lynn Murphy is also on your team. Is that somebody that works?
She's not on our team, but she is SRPD's MFT.
I see.
So there's some overlap with her, but she's not an employee of ours.
Right. And then clinical background, I used to work in patient psych unit and I would see the transitions where if they were coming with a police officer versus someone like you, it was always a much smoother transition.
Right.
When someone like your team was involved because it was very relationship oriented. And kind of going back to the experience that you were sharing at 7-Eleven, what is it that we as a community can do to provide more resources, get the word out? How can we be more of an ally to you? What is it that what's your expectation from the community? Because your system is there,
Yeah.
it's working. I just read this morning in Marine IJ that the homeless population is down 3%. Is that what you guys are seeing as well? Like the rates going down? That's more of, I think, Marin County. You're
Yeah.
not specific in San Rafael.
Mhm.
Mine is more of a question. How can we be more of your ally? What can we do as a community members to help you, be more successful?
Mhm. Yeah, good question. Thank you. I'd say getting the word out and then getting the word out effectively. And I think one thing we definitely get across to our clients is that, yes, we're contracted with the city and yes, we work with police, but we're not cops and we're not employed by police and we're not employed by the city. So we're our own entity. So when it comes down to like confidentiality, we don't share confidential matters with PD, right? So if we're out with a client that maybe has a low level warrant or something, like we happen to know that, we're not telling PD, we're not telling dispatch, right? Our job is to help our clients. So I'd say just educating, getting the word out. Even on our end, I try to attend as many events as I can here in town. The team attends events even when they're on shift sometimes. I think just getting the word out. We're really new. Like I said, we've been in Petaluma 3 years now. The community knows us, but a few times a week, we still get folks that, stop the van and ask, hey, what's the safe team? We've been up there 3 years and there's still a lot of people that ask who we are. So I think it'll take some time. But I'd just say, yeah, just organic spreading the word, and we're doing everything we can on our end of social media.
You guys feel you're understaffed? Is there need for more volunteers? Most of you guys are paid, I imagine, correct?
Yes, the team's paid.
Yeah.
No, we're not understaffed.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah.
Well-
Yeah, I know.
All the best.
Thank you. Thank you.
You said the police officer was an MTF or what is that?
Lynn Murphy is an MFT.
What-
She's a marriage and family
Oh,
therapist.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
licensed therapist. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your presentation. It's been very educational. And
Thank you.
as I said to you earlier, I saw your team driving today. It was great. I have one question about background. You said no one is licensed, which is perfectly fine. But what kind of background and training does your team have?
That's a good question. So half the team, the EMTs are licensed EMTs. For the crisis intervention specialist,
Mhm.
it's a mixed bag of, education background. So usually bachelor's level,
Sure.
lived experience. So we have several crisis workers on our team that's have a direct lived experience with either living on the streets, battling with mental health or substance use disorders, and then also work experience. Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
You're welcome.
Impressive.
Thank you.
Member Alvarez, do you have any questions?
No, but this is like my first time hearing about this and it's just amazing of what they do. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
No question, but also I am glad that we have this now. I think we needed to have like something different from the police, and I'm glad that you are like doing a good work. And like you said, let's hope that we can you can have like 18 hours or 20 hours per day, because that will be like so much better. But thank you for your presentation and your program.
You're welcome. Thank you, ma'am.
I suspect that Member Locks has one more question.
Because it was triggered by what she said. You had talked about maybe expanding from the 12 hours to 24 hours. Are you getting a lot of calls of those alternate times?
Yeah, so
That's so
my
tricky.
direct liaison at Santa Fe PD, Lieutenant Behringer, we meet every other week. Myself, him, and dispatch, we go over calls, we go over things, stats and things like this. And most recently, a couple weeks ago, they actually did pull the data on what percentage of calls during 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. would meet the type of calls that we would handle. And it was actually a fairly sizable portion. A lot of welfare checks and intoxicated subjects and those type of things. So I think the need, obviously, night shift is slower across all of our jurisdictions, even with police. But I do think there would be a need for us in the nighttime hours, and there would be, definitely a handful of calls that we'd be useful on. Yeah, you're welcome.
So our job is to help you be better known in the community and also to help you find money.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do any members have any other questions? Questions? Okay. So now would be the time for any public comment on this presentation, which we're grateful for.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Hanya. Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. I just wanted to note that it seems like everybody on the committee was really excited to hear this presentation. It seems like something that people feel passionately about. And I'm hoping, looking forward, that maybe this might be something that would be a priority for the committee and helping expand this program if necessary and find money for that and prioritize it over other things. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, please.
Hi, I would just like to say, I think this is awesome. Like Hanya said, I could see from all of you that you're supportive and you're excited about this, and let's do more of this. We heard that youth in Petaluma organized after the murder of George Floyd and said, we have another idea of safety. We have similar ideas here in San Rafael from your neighbors, from your friends, from your families about what safety could look like. And I think a big part of what safety looks like is that the experts are responding, right? So if I have a family member who's having a mental health crisis, I want someone who's trained to respond to a mental health crisis and let Scott and the rest of San Rafael PD respond to a bank robbery. The SAFE team's not, trained and experts in that, but the police department is. And so let's find out more. How do our community members imagine safety? Safety is a big pie. The SAFE team is part of that. The police department is part of that. The fire department is part of that. Who else is part of that? Who else helps us feel safe? And what does that mean to your neighbors, to your friends, to your families? I think that's really exciting. Thank you for answering the question, and Carla for saying, try to expand your hours, because I worked with kids who had been in juvenile hall. That was one of my first jobs out of college, and they got into trouble at night. When the SAFE team goes off, that's when they needed support. And I think we know that that's when a lot of things happen. When people are isolated, they're alone, there's no longer stuff going on in the community. That's when they need safety and support. So that enthusiasm we saw from all of you. Thanks so much for your presentation. Thank you for the work you're doing. Go Cahoots. It's awesome. And I hope you all can get really involved in this and figure out how we can have it 24 hours to reduce the burden on the police department and also support our community members. Thank you.
Jason from Gerstle Park.
Jason from Gerstle Park. I just want to thank San Rafael for incorporating the SAFE team. I think it's something that should be all over Marin. And but I'm glad it's in San Rafael, and I've seen how firsthand that it's helped in the unhoused community down at the Mahone Creek Path. And I very much would like to see it expanded to 18 hours or 24 hours, because I feel like there is a need for that at night as well. And I'm glad that this committee seems very interested in trying to expand this program or help expand this program. Thank you, Ms. Locke, for that important question about how the SAFE team interacts with the police department. I think that's very important. And I really look forward to you looking into what happened at 7-Eleven. I'm not sure if the SAFE team got there first and then it went from there, or if he came in after, but I'd like to see some clarification on that. It seems like, you know, all the charges that happened on the woman came after police contact. And so I'm not sure what a initial call was, but, you know, this is something that, you know, I haven't seen the video. I know there's video out there, but it could potentially reflect bad on the police department. And so, I'd like some clarification on that. Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I?
No,
Oh.
it's time for public comment.
I was just gonna ask him the date. Okay, I
Sorry.
was gonna ask him the date of the
I understand.
incident, yeah.
I understand. Is there any other public comment? Okay, so time for public comment is closed. Does staff have any comments to respond to the questions?
It was all positive comments. I didn't catch any real questions directed towards staff, but
Okay.
if there are
Thank
any,
you.
I'd be happy to answer.
So now that we've asked our questions, now would be the time for us to have any discussion about this presentation. So why don't we go this way? Ms. Valdez, do you have any comments that you'd like to make? And as a reminder, we'll be making recommendations when we do our feedback in July on this topic. So do you have any other comments?
No.
Ms. Alvarez, any other comments? I have no more.
I
And
have
Mr.
something I want to
please.
add. I serve on the San Rafael Board of Chamber of Commerce, and we had Lynn Murphy there on May 7th, I should add, and we are getting the word out to all the businesses in San Rafael about your program. And just wanted to make sure I throw that in there. That's, you know, all the channels are hearing what you're doing. And again, thank you.
Thank you.
Ram?
In thinking about our comments, which will be for our annual report, so this is our time to discuss that. And yes, I want to put a pin on to the city council, find more funding so we can expand this.
Member Locke?
Yes, I'm in agreement that we need to fund and expand your program,
Yeah.
and I will support that
Thank you.
Thank you,
in all of my areas of influence.
Thank you.
which are mighty. Member Reese?
Yo tengo una pregunta. ¿En esto hay latinos trabajando?
I have a question. In this, do we have any Latinos working?
Working on the safe team?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Every shift, there's one of the two team members speaks Spanish, and they're also part of the Latinx community as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We're good. Okay. So that closes this topic. And the next topic for us to discuss is development of, I guess I should say thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Sorry.
Thank you. Have a
We
good evening.
really, really appreciate your time and your work very much.
Take care.
Take care, Scott. Thank you for your time, yes. So the next item on our agenda is developing the work plan for 2024. And our recommendation is that we have to review and provide input on the second 4 months of our 2024 work plan. We have no meeting in June, so we have July, August, September, October, November, and no meeting in December. So is there a staff report?
Yes, this is perfect timing for me just to toggle the interpreters real quick.
Oh, the interpreter.
Okay.
Okay, we lost member Davidi just for one moment to,
Okay, I could wait if you want to wait for him to come back.
he's just getting a card. He's on his way back. Okay. Okay, we can dash. Lieutenant Everly, thank you. Were you successful?
Yes.
Good.
For the record, I want to ask for his business card. That's why I
Yeah.
asked the chair for
Yes,
permission.
No
yes.
problem.
They're in translation.
No problem. Yes, thank you, Chair Kamina. I'm going to be giving the staff report on the work plan for the next 4 months. The recommendation is for the Police Advisory and Accountability Committee to provide feedback for the second 4-month work plan and then prioritize the target subject areas to concentrate on. Just a little background. You remember back in January of 17th, the Police Advisory and Accountability Committee outlined the agenda for the first 4 months of the meetings. That work plan functioned as a framework as we conducted training so that you can be more educated in law enforcement best practices. And we discussed 2 critical areas of concern, which were the recruitment, selection, and law enforcement training. Tonight, we addressed another area of concern, which was mental health and alternate response. And then in July, we will hear the 4th plan that you all agreed upon, which would be homelessness. With this clear framework, we were able to approach our responsibilities with focus and efficiency, ensuring that each meeting was productive and purposeful. As we move forward, we will continue to build upon the foundation laid out in our initial work plan, addressing any emergent issues and meeting the evolving needs of our community. This is where you will have opportunity when you give your discussions to come up with other work plan ideas. Tonight, as I said before, we've already talked about the recruitment and selection, the law enforcement training, mental health, and alternative response. We've also covered a lot of law enforcement training. You guys were given a presentation on the police department orientation, the structure, policy, and command staff introduction, peace officer procedural bill of rights, professional standards and the internal affairs, and military equipment, to name the training that you guys had. Tonight, we should identify and explore 3 additional community areas of concern to finish out our first year strong. Besides homelessness, at our next meeting in July, there are 3 other areas of concern that what you choose will be addressed at the August, September, and October meetings. In November, we will review final recommendations from the October discussion and put the finishing edits and details into our annual report that will be presented to the City Council at the beginning of January or the beginning of the year of 2025. The San Rafael, for the work plan that we're going to be discussing tonight, the staff has identified areas of concern that the PAC should consider for the remainder. Besides homelessness, we are proposing community engagement, drone use and acquisition, and domestic violence. These topics are a reflection of some of the conversations we have had during our prior meetings and a direct result of the community survey that we conducted last year in all of the communities in San Rafael. Just as in the first part of the year's work plan, staff will present these areas of concern in order at the scheduled PAC meetings. As a reminder, if the committee desires more time or discussion, the topic can be continued to the committee feels they have adequate information and to give advice and feedback. At this meeting tonight, PAC members will have the opportunity to propose additional topics for committee consideration. The committee may adopt suggestions put forth by staff or propose alternative topics for discussion. In your staff report, I put a small graph calendar that outlines the next 6 months. You can see there's no meeting in June and no meeting in December. Just to repeat again, the staff recommendations for the next PAC meetings would be community engagement, drone acquisition and use, and domestic violence. That concludes my staff report and open up to any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant Everly. Okay. At this point, are there any questions of Lieutenant Everly from the committee? Member Locks, thank you. Turn your mic, thank you.
Yes, this is item 2C, to which I did want to comment.
Well, this is, I'm sorry, this is time for questions, right? I have to follow
Questions.
the format.
Oh,
So if you have a question, this would be the time. If not, you'll get another chance in a moment.
a
just
question about the
questions
report
Of
or my response to the report?
the question about the report. Sorry,
It's
I know.
kind of a question. But I'll wait.
Any questions? Mr. Allen?
I appreciate that these are informed from community surveys. Community engagement, what do we mean by that? What would be encompassed in a topic like that?
So community engagement was also brought upon a discussion in, I think, our first meeting when we were across the street, where you guys wanted to get involved in just that community engagement. How can the police be involved in more aspects of the community? I think Mr. Davidi had mentioned a sports event, going to more functions. How can we become more involved with our community here? And so we would be looking for, we would do a presentation on what we do currently. It would probably cover all aspects of our community engagement, from social media to actively participating in live recruiting events, community engagement events, recruiting, festivals, holiday parties, those type of things, and anything else. And then after that, you could give recommendations on what else we should be doing, or what should we be doing more of or less of.
Question?
No question.
Do you have any questions?
No.
No?
No question.
Aha, now would be the time for comments and suggestions. I'm sorry. Yes, Ms. Locks, please.
I think it's public
Okay,
comment.
wait,
It's
no.
public. I think it's public comment.
Oh, thank you for keeping us
First.
on track.
Yes.
Are there any comments from the public about this topic?
I hope that when this was on the agenda, you all had a chance to talk to your neighbors, to your friends, to your colleagues, to say what would they like brought as an area of interest for the community to the police department. And again, I think you can wait for it. You all know what I'm going to say. It would be great to hear what change model they're using, if any, and how the department is working on police culture. Because training is where culture starts, and training officers are training in a particular way, where sometimes we're seeing that they're valuing protection of each other over protection of the community. And we need to see, a lot of us are concerned and want to see what measures the police department is taking to live up to the protect and serve oath that they take when they take office. So please consider that.
Are there any other comments from the public? Seeing none, the public comment time will be closed. I don't think there's anything for you to comment about, so I won't ask you. So now would be the time for us to have a conversation about what it is that we would like to do in the next few months. So I'm going to ask Member Locks to go first and tell us what she would like. And I have a favor to ask. My pen has just run out of ink. Thank you. Okay, saved by the bell.
Okay.
Thank you.
First, I wanted to address, what we agreed to in January, the 4 months that we agreed to of the training. The May training was actually supposed to be use of force and force options. And this is May, and we did something different. And I feel that the use of force and force options was a high priority we have listed community matters of concern with the San Rafael Police Department versus most pressing issues concerning the San Rafael Police Department is what's stated here. That's just, it's probably just a reshuffling of words. But I feel that the use of force was one of the reasons that this committee was brought forward as working on these issues. And I think that the next meeting, the topic that is pressing should be at the July meeting, which would be our next meeting, that topic should be the use of force and force options, which would include what kind of training goes into that we'd be able to ask questions about that, maybe even see a video of some, like a takedown or whatever, maybe some things like that, an interactive, because I'm very much interested in, as the community has expressed, the culture changes. I'm interested in how the curriculums are actually designed. And so the use of force is very important to me and my community members and the people that I've spoken to within my neighborhood, that is something that they wanted to have addressed sooner rather than later, which is what the recommendation says, the use of force training in the upcoming year. That's 2025. I'm saying no to that. That's something that needs to be addressed in 2024. That says next upcoming year. So that assumes after December. That's what I was understanding.
Yeah, I can clarify. I wrote the staff report, so I apologize if it came across as that. We do intend to provide use of force training, and just because if it's a training topic or if it's an area of concern and you have recommendations and feedback, please give that. You could give it to anything that we present. We want to hear it. You want to put it in the annual report, we'll put it in the annual report. It was our intention to actually find a use of force simulator, kind of like a virtual reality thing that the committee could participate in. It's been logistically, it's been problematic, but we want to make sure, just as you do, you want to get the full immersive experience of knowing the background of use of force, the laws pertaining to use of force, and then actually getting to participate in a use of force scenario. We thought that that would be the best training and the best exposure. So we have a couple of items in the work that we're trying to procure so that we can do it over at the police station next door up in the third floor. We're just not there yet. If there is a demand to have just a use of force class before we can do that, we could look at our schedule for sure. And then do maybe the simulator at some other time. But it was definitely my intention to do the use of force training. If not in July, it would have been in August. It would have been because it's under the training area, it just would have been another topic of the area of concern.
So it's very clear that use of force is one of the topics to be considered. While you have the floor, do you have other topics that you'd like covered in the other meetings, Member Locks?
We talked. The reason I'm interested in the curricula development is because that's where I think culture change would start. And I'm very much interested in a change in the interactions that the public has with police and the police have with the public. And that takes a lot of, as the community members have spoken to, a culture change. That culture change, I think, begins with us having an understanding of what is involved in the curricula, have an understanding. So having, like we listed, crisis intervention and so forth were the topics of training. I would like to dive deeper into that. Maybe that's an independent thing that I would be doing, is I would like to see a curriculum. But I do feel that the culture aspects of training and the use of force, that those are paramount things that we need to look at. Homelessness will be here again tomorrow. Community engagement, we're engaging in that already and doing those things. The drone acquisition and use, that probably moves up. And domestic violence, I'm not sure of the stats on that, as if that is a high priority. It was not listed in our January list of things, so that I don't know about. But I believe I have said clearly the
Okay.
two areas that I'm most
Okay.
interested in.
So I'm making a list of what everybody suggests.
Yes.
So use of force and force options are at the top. And the other ones that Lieutenant Eberly suggested would be there, but farther down the line. Okay. Member Ruiz, do you have any comments, suggestions as to what topics we should cover? Okay, thank you. Member
I'll piggyback and agree with Member
Okay.
Locke's request.
Okay,
If I were to share my engagements with the neighborhood I live in,
Yeah.
the West End, my community members, their areas of concern are traffic and property crime.
okay. Well, I'm going to put it on the list. Traffic and property.
I really want to put a pin on traffic. I'm really concerned about the e-bikes and e-bike safety and enforcement of that. I'm seeing kids just taking over the city streets, and it's crazy. I'm so scared.
It's frightening.
Yeah,
We're gonna run over one of those.
I
kids.
almost did, cause I was in an area of light and he was in the shadow, and there he was just popping a wheelie down Miracle Mile.
Okay, so I've added traffic and property crimes and e-bikes to the list for us to consider and come to consensus on. Any? No, no, Mr. Davidi?
Yeah, I
Member
support members Locke's vision as far as priority. Just like Daniel, member, I do live in a neighborhood that priorities are property theft and other stuff, but I feel like we're really here for this not just one reason, but this main reason. And I like to kind of for us to address it. So so I support member Locke's as far as putting that at priority,
Okay,
number one.
Okay, okay. My intent is to get a suggestion from everyone and then for us to figure out a consensus. Okay. Member Valdez, do you have any topics that you'd like considered or not considered, but presented on in the coming?
Not at the moment. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. mhm.
Okay. Member Alvarez?
No, but I agree with Member Locks
Okay.
on. Oh, wait, I forgot.
Yeah, okay. I have one question of you. Is there any topic that we might look at that has more to do with youth, since you're our youth representative?
I'd have to think about
You'll think
it.
about it.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually have a few questions. One is probably not on presentation, but the topic of ride-alongs came up before, and I'm thinking, so do you have a thought on what we're supposed to do?
I think I should start scheduling them.
Okay. That'd be exciting. I haven't
Yes.
been in a police car for a long time. Is anybody interested in the topic of school resource officers? Should we put that on the list?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you explain further?
Pardon?
Can you explain it?
So school resource officers, well, actually Lieutenant Eberly should explain it.
Is it just like the history with San Rafael Police Department or school resources and
Well, I think
officers in
just in general,
general?
she wants to
Yeah.
know what a school resource officer is.
A school resource officer is a liaison to the schools. They're meant to be resource officers. They're meant to, establish relationships with juveniles, try to keep them on the right path. There's been some recent studies. We've done our own studies on reimagining SROs. So there's a lot to it, but the main function is just the liaison between the schools, the police department, their home life. A lot of times, a lot of these juveniles will commit crimes outside of school. So trying to be good role models, good inspirations for young adults.
So in my past experience, there's been like the officer who's assigned to juvenile crimes will maybe hang out at the school for an afternoon, just to be a face that people will become more familiar with and comfortable with to help the community engagement. So it's a topic, but if people aren't interested, we don't, I'll just.
Yeah, I mean, you could lump restorative justice into that.
Yeah.
It's a big topic, but it's a good topic.
One of the other topics that I thought about that might have to do with what you're suggesting, and I do agree that your suggestion on use of force is important. We touched on briefly the idea of hearing what is taught at the police academies. And I know aren't they like 6 or 9 month programs, depending on where you go? So there's a lot of information, but some of the topics that are now taught are officer resiliency and culture. And I'm wondering if we can have someone like former Officer Joel Fay, who teaches that, come, and if that would be of interest to people to know what what budding officers are actually taught. So that's something that I'll put on the list. I'll just call it Police Academy, and then we can toss it out. And then, yeah, pretty much. Yes, please.
Marilyn? I was at the Board of Supervisors meeting yesterday morning, and there was a gentleman from the community that spoke about all the pipes that they were collecting from students in high schools within the he said county, so I won't say San Rafael. But is that a concern for you as to, because we're asking you about the youth, and I know you're a bright girl, and I want to hear what you're thinking. Is that a problem at the school that you attend, or are you aware of that being a problem within the San Rafael schools? That or other drug use?
Yes, and also school violence and how police officers deal with that.
My darling, that's what we were asking you to share. Hello?
That's okay.
Yes, she's shy.
Is that something that you would like to have a presentation on?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, good. So I'm going to put that on the list. So how would you say it? School violence? So that would be, and how the police handle it? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Police handle it.
Yes.
Good
Yeah.
topic.
Yes.
Okay. And it sounds like domestic violence isn't the greatest issue here, but I will, in my experience, it is the #1 crime in this community. Is that still
that
correct?
right?
Absolutely.
okay.
It is.
So it's
Um,
on there then.
well, no,
But
it
we don't-
doesn't, we don't, it's not necessary that we discuss it, but I think it's just from my, information, it's one of the most dangerous crimes. And as we all know, the Center for Domestic Peace
Right.
does an
Yeah.
incredible job,
Yeah.
and it's good information to have and to know how to deal with it. The most dangerous time for a woman is when she wants to leave. And so
Yes,
that's
right.
when I remember, so this is just minor background, but when I first started, when there was a domestic dispute, the police would say to the woman, well, you should leave, literally leave the house to get away from him. And now it's just the opposite. It's like if the man is causing the trouble, they put the onus on him. So there's a domestic violence policy for the county. But
they
anyway, but
take
it may not be the
Take
big.
the man away?
Yeah. So it's focused more correctly.
More correctly.
More, that was a
Yeah.
bad, okay.
No,
so-
that was good.
Okay, so any more suggestions,
I
please?
think this whole domestic violence thing, it impacts the entire family. It's
Yes.
it's prevalent in different cultures. I think it is important, and I think we should take that more seriously.
Put it on the list.
Yeah, I think just to have a diverse topics. And then the community building thing, is that something still we're gonna address down the line, or is that still a?
What I would recommend is we have a list now of quite a lot.
Yeah.
And what the chair could possibly do is just go down the line and have people either prioritize what their top 3 or 4 are. And then we can probably get a consensus that way.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, so the plan is, I'm gonna read.
Oh, I can ask, I'm sorry for interrupting. I was just going to
Please.
ask a point of clarification. So based off of the resource constraints that PD has with
Sure.
the use of force simulator, I guess what we would want some clarification if we would be separating the topic, like having one that just covers maybe curriculum and the other one that covers the simulation, just so that, you know, you're not going to get the full benefit. You would have to separate the
Right.
topic.
I think
Just wanna
I
clarify.
certainly know what the simulation is, but maybe you can describe what that is so people will understand a little more.
Yeah, so the simulator would be very similar to virtual reality. We're getting some virtual reality software. You put on like a mask, some goggles, and then you'd run through a scenario and you'd be given a list of tools on your belt that you can use. There's the simulator at the sheriff's department, which is a little bit more advanced,
Yeah.
and you actually have the tools that are tangible, and you're not really wearing anything. You see it, you're in front of a big screen, similar to like a golf. If you ever seen one of the golf simulators, it's just a huge giant screen, and they play a scenario and they stop it, and you have to react appropriately to whatever tool is on your belt that you think is appropriate. So there's a couple different simulator options that we can do. What happens is we run into, this is a public meeting, so we got to make sure the sheriff is okay with opening that up to the public. And so those are our problems, but separating it might not be a bad idea because we can talk about use of force and culture, talk about stats. We can talk about how many use of force incidents that we have compared to how many use incidents. It would definitely give you an idea on culture. And then we could bring back the simulator at a different time. It's whatever you wish.
I will work. And also one thing that I wanted to add just for our, during this comment time, our regular agenda, I know that the department publishes annually the number of complaints, and that I think it would be a really good idea if we had just basic information at each meeting, what's gone on during the month before, or the 2 months before our meeting. Does that, just to say how many complaints there've been and what legally you can tell us in terms of how they're being dealt with? I know there are probably a lot of constraints. but
Yeah, no
would that
problem.
work?
I just wanted to clarify, you want that at each meeting or do you want that quarterly?
I think it would be good at just each meeting if that's, and we'll figure out if it's too much, you know? I'd rather have more than less. Is that?
Because I'm feeling very isolated.
I understand.
Yeah.
I think that kind of interaction would be helpful for us
Yeah.
because I'm feeling, there's a demarcation between what we're learning and how we're learning it. And that would make it a little bit more real.
Right.
Like, oh, they got some complaints about, 3 e-bikes.
Right, okay.
I think just to clarify though, we would be only disclosing complaints about officers. So the officer complaints, we publish every year, so it's public.
Yeah.
We can give names, but it'd be something if we had a complaint about an officer's conduct and it's in progress. We had a complaint about officer's conduct and we investigated, it was unfounded, exonerated, sustained, not sustained. That's what
Right.
we would be happy to share.
It would just give us a feeling of what's going on.
Sure.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to read the list now.
In your summary, you can say police officer A, police officer B, police officer C. You don't do name, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't, or do you aggregate? You're gonna do,
I could separate out each complaint. I'll say there was
Yes.
a complaint on a police officer for conduct, and that investigation is in progress.
okay,
That's what you would hear.
okay.
Okay, so now I'm going to read the list that was suggested, and I'm just going to run through it, and then if you would each tell me which ones are your number 1, 2, or 3. Yes, please.
I'm also interested in how police officers deal with youth because they can have good experiences and bad experiences.
Right.
And later on, those experiences will impact the future generation. So
I will add that
Yeah.
to the list and I'll combine it with the one on school violence and how the police, okay, youth. Okay, so the first one, and I suspect that everybody agrees on it, that as soon as it can be done, we have a use of force presentation, but without the simulator because we can't do that right now. Is that everybody? Okay, that's number 1, Lieutenant Everly. Homelessness was mentioned and that's going to be on the list. The other ones, traffic and property crimes. School resource officers, I would combine with like a school presentation. So let me suggest that perhaps the second topic we have after use of force is school youth, police interacting with youth, which includes school violence and school resource officers, or possibly. Does that sound like a good number 2, everybody?
And you can possibly add that early onset experience with.
Early, yes. But the general topic,
With police, yeah.
the topic would be youth and police in general, and going through the particular areas that you suggested.
I'll vote for that. yeah.
Okay, is that everybody's number 2?
Yeah.
Got it, okay. Another topic then was traffic and property crimes as well as e-bikes. Do we want to keep that on the list, but maybe put it
Maybe
farther down?
That's
Oh, not as urgent?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll keep it on the list, but bump it down. And then the, another topic, or the last 2 topics, one was what is taught at the police academies that our officers come from in terms of culture and resilience.
I feel we might get some of that with topic 1. I
Okay.
think it would be nice to keep it mixed, so you've got like the number 1, and then the
Okay.
youth, and then maybe do DV with family, just to kind of have a little broad. That's just my opinion.
Okay,
I know we're flowing really good right now, but I have to toggle the interpreters, and just a reminder, just
Okay.
one at a time talk.
thank you.
That's
Aren't you glad we're excited? Then we have to have the public comment. I closed it already. Okay. Toggle is becoming my favorite word.
Okay, we're good. Thank you.
Okay. So here's the new suggested priority, and we'll ask members if they agree. The next meeting, or as soon as possible, use of force and force options by the police, which would include the training that they get at the police academy. Is that is that too much in one?
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
That is a
Okay, so
lot.
we have to break it
Use,
down.
use of force is gonna be.
Is enough,
yeah.
okay. Yes, use of force and force options, yes, okay. So
yeah.
do we all agree that use of force and force options should be number 1?
Yes.
Got it. That's number 1. So number 2, it sounds like we want to have the topic of youth and school, which would include how the police respond to violence and violence and issues with the youth at school. Does everybody agree on that?
Just to clarify, you're not looking for like an active attacker type class. You're just
No,
more
not an
looking
active
for
shooter, just general police and youth
general stuff.
relationship,
Got it.
unless Ms. Alvarez wants to say something more specific. Just, you're talking about in general, what happens at school in terms of school violence and how the police respond,
Yeah.
whether the violence is somebody from the outside or somebody from the inside. Is that
Yeah,
what you
and
mean?
I don't know if it will have any bearing, but we don't have SROs right now, so we don't go to the schools too much anymore. So it's gonna be,
I also meant like how they deal with youth in public also.
Okay.
okay.
Perfect. Okay, so that's number 2. And of number 3, we have a choice of homelessness, traffic and property crimes, or domestic violence. Is there a suggestion on number 3? Just in order.
I'd go with the domestic violence.
Okay,
Because that impacts, that's large, I think.
okay, domestic violence.
I agree.
Sorry,
So the next, in terms of the next topics, we'll do use of force and force options, youth in schools, and then the suggestion is that the third one be domestic violence.
yes.
So we're all in agreement with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So how many more do we have to do, Lieutenant Everly? One more. The
But
options,
the only thing is that you've already chosen homelessness. So
We have,
I
that's
want to
right.
make sure that if you're,
I don't want to skip that.
yeah, so that would be the 3, and then that would get us to the year, unless you,
Okay.
Wait a minute. When did we say we chose homelessness?
Before, when we made our
In
list in
January.
That was.
But we can talk about it now. So the point is that would be I'm ranking in order. It would be our fourth choice, right? We have the other choices are homelessness and property crimes. So we're clear that 1 is use of force, 2 is youth, and 3 is domestic violence. So fourth, homelessness. Question,
Mhm.
or is that agreement?
No, question.
Okay.
Okay. When we're talking about the use of force, and we're talking about the interaction of youth, the interaction with youth, either in the community or at school. I heard the word culture being thrown about and used in 2 different ways. Culture that you're dealing with, as in the Arab community, versus the culture of the policing. And it's the culture of the policing that we need to address. And how are we going to address that in these topics? That needs to be addressed in some fashion, because that's what we need to work on as far as implementing change.
Well, Ms. Locks, if I may, if we were to do a presentation on use of force, and then we were to outline all the incidents that we did, compare them to how many times we use of force, we would include maybe some RIPA data in there as well. I think that would show you a culture, correct? Because a culture is a custom within a certain entity, is how I interpret culture. So I think you'd be able to get an idea of the culture of the use of force use in San Rafael Police Department by the data that we can present to you.
Maybe,
Also-
oh, is that okay?
At the moment, that's okay. That sounds right.
Okay, well, because
We'll
I'm,
be able to address it, I guess.
right, I'm
Yeah.
thinking that the idea of this use of, I think you're talking about the culture in terms of how police behave. Is that what I'm trying to understand what your
Yes,
thought?
Response. yes,
Response.
yes.
So if we, in each topic that we cover, if part of that is always going to be, what is the police response and how do they reply? Does that work for you?
As a start, yes.
What would be the next thing then?
As
I
a
mean,
start, yes.
Okay. So the third is domestic violence. Maybe we could have someone from Center for Domestic Peace or a presentation of some sort to talk about what the issue is and how the police are involved in it. Okay. And and then homelessness would be the next one. And I guess property crimes and traffic are at the end of the list. Is that?
We'll have a list for 2025. And just to be clear, though, I just want to make sure that
Yes.
we're just going to do a presentation on use of force and force options. In
Yeah.
that, it will be a lot of data.
I understand.
And then, just like we said, if you need more time or more explanation, you can always continue the topic to the next meeting if you want.
Absolutely.
You can always ask me for more questions during, and I really would recommend that you ask me those questions after you get the packet so that we can be
Fair.
prepared to answer the questions that you have, because the questions that you have are probably going to be the same questions that the public have.
Thank you. Yes? No, don't be sorry. That's why
I'm
you're
trying,
here.
I'm trying to understand, are we, I've got 3 slots here. We still have 2 more slots and we're adding homelessness under domestic violence?
No.
No?
So the way the consensus that I believe we have thus far is use of force and force options, number 1. 2 is youth and school and the police in general. 3 is domestic violence. 4th is homelessness. And then the last one would be traffic, property crimes and e-bikes.
We're not gonna have time.
We
Well, that'll
only
be next, that'll
Yeah,
be
next-
like
Yeah.
I'm just saying in order of when we get to them. Okay.
So just so everybody's clear, we only have enough room to do 4
I understand. but
areas of
we're
concern. And
I'm just wanting to
Four?
respect member
Oh.
Alm's suggestion that we have that eventually. And yes, please.
I think I'm confused, so I don't know. My understanding was that for July, our, is gonna be homelessness, or no?
I think it got changed just now.
Yes.
It was
Okay.
going to be homelessness, yes.
Okay,
But it's your committee, so
So it's
we want to
changed.
change it.
okay,
Is that okay with you?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. That's okay. It's been a conversation. So you want me to say it again? Or are we set? I want to make sure we're clear.
They were clear. Just
I
make a
think we
motion.
got it. I don't think we need a motion. I think we just had to get consensus.
Consensus on
And I
this, yeah.
think we have it.
So will you repeat the full list again?
Do you want me to? Okay.
Yes.
So I'll just ask this one question. Is yes or no? Do you agree that this should be our list in order? Use of force and force options, school violence and the relationship between youth and police, domestic violence 3, homelessness 4, and eventually down the line, traffic and property crimes.
Well, that would be November. So what are you saying? Wouldn't that be November?
No, we have annual report.
I'm not asking about the time. I'm asking about the order. You agree with the order?
I agree.
I'm just asking yes or no.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, Ms.
Yes,
Locke? Yes, yes, yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Ms. Reeves,
So since
thank
then-
you.
Yes.
Hallelujah. We have consensus. Okay. Well, I just want everybody to have the
No,
opportunity to
yes, yes.
say what they want, and we're set. And it actually will be very interesting, I think, and a lot of work for Lieutenant Everly. We have 15 minutes left, but we can take time. It's time now that we've received our consensus for any
Homelessness,
updates from
and then-
staff?
Robbery? Okay.
No updates from staff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then would be the time
Mm.
for committee reports.
Ah.
We'll go the other way. Ms. Valdez, do you have any, a report of anything
No.
for the community? Ms.
No.
Alvarez? No? Mr.
Um,
Hamidi?
I attended the classic car show in downtown San Rafael with my son. Packed event. There was police presence. I got to interact with Councilmember Eli Hill. He's really cool. Just talked to him for a while. He was standing the whole time, just shaking hands in the hot sun and by the police. So it was nice to see police presence, and there was an old police car. There's a lot of education about, different services they offer. And you can tell they're very hungry to connect. My son was there, so it felt like a nice family event with a bunch of classic cars. So that was my, experience about attending
Great.
San Rafael events.
Mr. Alm?
Two things to report. Thank you, Lieutenant, for inviting me to participate in oral boards. It was a long day. We went through 9 candidates, correct? We only approved 1. It's kind of rough. It was, yeah. But it just reinforces my concern on staffing, and I hope we can continue to have participation of the PAC on being a part of that. I think it's important that the community is involved in choosing the people that police them. Also, I want to report that Heidi and I have actually had a coffee a couple months ago. I didn't report it last time because you weren't here. And I just want to thank you personally for that discussion, and I'm open to talk to you anytime again.
Thank you. Member Logs?
What I like to share with our committee and the community is that the Commission on Aging is having its annual forum during the month of older adults, which is May. And this will be on May 30th. It's a Thursday from 9 to 2-ish, 2:32. And it's what it is like to age in Marin, a cross-cultural conversation. We have a panel of that includes an African American, a Indigenous American, a person of Hispanic background, a person who is from Southeast Asia, and a Caucasian gentleman who had been homeless who now is housed. So we're getting perspectives from 5 different persons aging in our county, the good, bad, and the whatever. And it's an opportunity to hear and learn from their lived experiences. They're presenting to the Commission on Aging for us as I'm a commissioner on the Commission of Aging, for us to continue to be advocates for the older adult population. More and more of them are becoming homeless or unhoused. And so the ticket and meal is $25. and it's an online, you have to register. However, we don't want the $25 to stop anybody from coming. So if we have some scholarship money, it will be held at Embassy Suites. I can't get that word out this month. Embassy Suites. And if people need scholarships, they can call 415-499-0809 so they can be registered for being compensated. So again, now the ticket and meal online is MCCCOA, that's 3 C's, .eventbrite.com. Say that 4 times, but anyway, but we want the community people to come, not just professionals, but the community to hear what community has to say and to hear, there will be some table activities and then for the community members to have aging, Commission on Aging, the commissioners to advocate in the ways in which the community thinks is in their best interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Reed, do you have any community reports?
Sí, yo atendí a una reunión con el grupo de Emosi en una iglesia y yo también tomé clase de liderazgo en Canal Alliance por 4 lunes. Este lunes pasado fue nuestra graduación y nosotros aprendimos mucho cómo poder trabajar con la comunidad y en nuestra vida diaria. Fue muy importante para nosotros los latinos que estuvimos en esa clase de liderazgo. Gracias.
Yes, I took a class in Embassy and also at the church. I took a classes where everyone can learn about leadership. This class was very good. I'm very happy that I learned that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I correct that? It was 2 different things. She learned leadership at Canal Alliance
Oh, perfect.
for a month, I remember. Yeah,
Thank you.
my mom was on it too, that's what.
Thanks.
Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you so much. I actually have some information to give. I met with Joanne Simonini from the Cal Alliance just to get acquainted and let her know that we're interested in what's going on. I continue to work with the Marin County Coalition to end human trafficking. I actually attended an event with the Jeanette Prandy Children's Center where they interview children who are suspected of being abused, and it actually was honoring the people who do the interviews as they were rotating out. It was very touching for me. I attended the Center for Domestic Peace annual Mother's Day event, which is incredible. There were 400 people there, including Ms. Heidi. I participated in interviews for the new administrator for this committee with Lieutenant Everly. And I wanted to let people know about a program that I think is very important. It's being presented twice. It is by an investigator in the district attorney's office who used to be a CSI with the sheriff's office. His name is Andre Longton Horton. And the class is, it's only an hour, but it's how, for parents, how to be vigilant with their children and how to learn what the kids are doing on technology and keeping one step ahead of the kids and learning about it. So if people are in, it's both on Zoom. One is being put on by the Office of Education and the District Attorney's Office, and there are flyers out in front, and I've put flyers around for people. But the one that is through the Office of Education is on the Facebook page. You can register through Eventbrite, but through the District Attorney admin. And the other one is actually the general meeting for the Coalition to End Human Trafficking, and that's a daytime one. For the one in June is June 13th at 10:30 a.m. until noon. And the one that is in the evening is on May 30th from 6:15 to 7:15. And if you ask several days in advance, they will have it in Spanish for you. So I think it's good, and I make all my family go to this.
Madam Chair, the question is, so where do we go to register? We go to the website?
If you go to the Marin, it's all these initials. So the Marin County Coalition to End Human Trafficking that's the one it's the one in the morning. It's mcceht.org. You can register there. And if you want to do the evening one, I found it it's actually the district attorney's admin website page. And you should find it. Hopefully you can find it. And now I think we're done. So
Thank you.
seeing smiling faces and no more comments, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant.